It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chilliefalls.
Hey, good morning and welcome to a special Sunday broadcast, the Travel and Cruise Industry News podcast. On this, what is today? October 27th? Is that correct? Yeah, October 27th. Brought to you by Will U.S., the owner of Scoot Around. And, of course, by chilliescruises. There's a couple reasons why I'm doing a special broadcast today, folks. One, there were some fairly salient, timely news stories. Not any major news stories, but timely. So I thought I would go on and do that. There was also a situation where StreamYard has made some changes, and one of the things that's changing is that you can have a permanent link to a broadcast. I'm not sure exactly how this works yet, but I have it turned on. Now, I don't know if it gave you anything coming in or not, I can't imagine, like those of you that pick up the link from YouTube or from Facebook, how this whole thing would work. So I don't know. I'll find out eventually, I hope. Hot Air Tom today is on a train. He's coming back from New York. He went up there to have dinner with Bruce and some of his crew. So he's on the train. I talked to him earlier this morning, before I knew I was going to do a show today. All right, so the lead story today is a last-minute Regal Princess Cancellation. We're going to talk about that because it's a ship that was supposed to sail today. We do have an emergency medevac from Cairns, Australia, that just came in a couple minutes ago. Brilliance of the Seas forced to overnight in Mexico. Interesting into that story. A Carnival Guest Arrested. 4 cruises canceled for charters. I hate that. And the name for the second Adora Ship has been released from our friends over in China. That and lots more here at 11 o'clock this morning. So we'll do the same thing we do on every day, folks. And that is to point out that today is a National American Beer Day. So go have a beer. I got no problem with that. This day in history in 1961, in the midst of the space race, NASA tests its first Saturn I rocket. The rocket is significant because its power put the first Americans into orbit around the Earth. It also marks the date that my grandfather could retire. He was a civil and mining engineer that was hired by the government. He was at the Texas Naval Air Station for years and years working on the landing gear on jet planes to land on aircraft carriers. You know, they got a hook and a wire and they get caught, basically. My grandfather was involved in that situation, and then he was in Anniston, Alabama, doing stuff that we were never supposed to know about. Anniston, Alabama was where the Saturn I rocket was developed. So, and at the same time, that was when my grandfather retired. All right. If you're listening via the podcast, and the podcast will be up today, folks, just like normal, you can always access the podcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net, or wherever you get your podcasts from, all the big hitters, any of them. Travel and Cruise Industry, just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News. Come on, Tom. Anyway, yeah, just say Travel and Cruise Industry News wherever you're searching for a podcast, and up pops the Fat Travel Guy. That's what I was trying to get out. if you're listening via the podcast and you ever want to jump over to the video feed for interviews or clips or pictures or whatever, there's always a link in the description of the podcast. So you can do just that. All right. So before we get started today, I want to check something over in the chat room. And that is, I am showing some X people in the chat room now. That's awesome. Boy, it's been a long time coming, but you X guys, thank you for being here. This is the first time that you've been visible in the chat room. And I'm assuming everybody, all my regulars, can see it as well, as I've got a second computer that I can see it on. So, all right, that's a good thing. We've been working a long time trying to come up with that. All right, so let's take a quick break from one of our network sponsors, and then I'll get to a little bit of news today. I'll be back in just a second. All right, the lead story, folks, comes from Princess Cruises. And keep in mind, when I taped the story this morning, this was going to be played tomorrow. This is actually today's sailing. On Friday, Princess Cruises reached out to impacted passengers to inform them that the Sunday Western Caribbean sailing on board the Royal Class vessel would not be going ahead due to unspecified technical difficulties. Currently, Regal Princess is en route to Galveston, which will be her home port for the winter, from Southampton. The now scratched voyage would have been the first of many Western Caribbean sailings offered from the Texas port. Just to point that out again, the canceled voyage is the one that's supposed to sail this afternoon from Galveston. A week voyage. And at the last minute, it was wiped out over some kind of technical issues, and they're not saying why. That's my fault of the whole thing. If there were issues coming on the transatlantic, they'd tell us. You know, we're big boys and girls. We can take disappointments. Don't try to hide it. If it's an azopod issue, say it's an azopod issue. We're going to try to get it fixed for the next cruise. Okay. We don't know what it is. They just canceled the cruise at the last minute. We only have a couple inside cabins remaining on the cruise ship Dr. Cruz, which sails November the 16th from Port Canaveral. Inside solo studios are $950. Inside double occupancy is $740 per person. Just give me a call, 434-258-9264. We'll have a great time on the cruise ship Dr. Cruz, November the 16th. Guests on board Brilliance of the Seas on October 19th sailing out of New Orleans were informed that the ship was experiencing technical issues impacting its propulsion systems. The issue came to light while the vessel was docked in Progreso, Mexico on October 24th. The ship was originally scheduled to depart the port at 5 p.m., but remained overnight so engineers could resolve the issues. The vessel eventually departed the following day on October the 25th around 3 p.m. According to passengers on board, the issues were fixed, and the ship is heading back home. Guests have also been kept updated by public announcements from the ship's captain. A 21-year-old cruise ship guest, James A. Darling, has been arrested and charged with vehicular manslaughter following an ATV accident while visiting Nassau. A $40,000 cash bail has been set, but at this time, Darling remains in the Bahamas. The tragic incident occurred on Sunday, October the 20th. James and 3 friends departed on a Carnival cruise on October the 19th for a much-needed boys' getaway. Darling was driving an ATV with a friend, James Palmer, as a passenger. The vehicle rolled onto its side and ultimately landed on Palmer's neck, causing his death. 4 cruises on board Virgin Voyages Valiant Lady have been canceled in favor of private charters that have booked the entire cruise ship. Impacted passengers were scheduled for May and October of 2025, were contacted by the Adults Only Cruise Line to notify them of the cancellations and their options. Many weren't happy about it. The impacted cruises are May 23rd, May 28th, October 10th, and October 15th sailings from Miami. Adora Flora City is the name of Adora Cruises. Adora Flora City is the name of Adora Cruises' newest ship under construction in China, making it the second China-built vessel for the line following the launch of Adora Magic City in January of this year. Both ships and a third, Adora Mediterranea, set to debut in December of 2024, catering mostly to the Chinese market. The cruise line is a joint venture created in 2018 between Carnival Corporation and the China State Shipbuilding Corporation. So this is a story that came in literally just a few minutes before I went on the air. And it comes from our friends over at Cruise Hive, and it comes from, by the way, this is Melissa Mance. Coast Guard evacuations from cruise ship can be harrowing operations. This was a kind of a toughie from P&O Cruises Australia Pacific encounter that happened on Thursday. The Carnival and ship was sailing approximately 285 miles east of Cairns, Queensland, when an emergency evacuation was initiated. The call for assistance was initially made when the ship, finishing a 10-night New Guinea Island encounter itinerary and en route back to Brisbane, was at sea, still in Papua New Guinea waters, about 560 miles from Cairns. Basically, a male passenger suffered a cardiac arrest. Because of the distance, the ship was directed closer to Willis Island so the helicopter involved would be able to refuel after the rescue. Willis Island is 450 kilometers. It's 280 miles east of Cairns. The rescue team involved include the Cairns-based Challenger Bombardier 604 jet rescue aircraft for overhead support, as well as the Cairns rescue helicopter operated by Queensland Government Air. And all went well. The helicopter was successfully and safely got the guests on board, was able to refuel, get the guests to the hospital in Cairns for treatment. Good job for those guys. All right, so that's going to wrap up the news portion on this Sunday show. I am Adora. I didn't want to do that either. Why is it giving me? Okay, so it's Sunday morning, folks. I'm a little off my game. What can I say? All right, so that wraps it up. Now, I am somewhat concerned that a couple people in the chat room say they're not seeing anything. Here, I thought X got you guys on X, and I so appreciate you guys supporting my channel. And I thought I had this fixed because I am able to see you X guys on my side computer, which I've never been able to see you before. I could see it on my computer that this show is on. So now I'm even more confused why everybody else can't, why you're not in the chat room with everybody else. It makes no sense to me. So let's go over and I can at least say hello to everybody. So, and a lot of you guys on X, I have trouble with the names. Dijazu, I guess, says bonsoir. I know what that means. That means good evening. Let's see. Madhu says hi. Malang says, how are you doing? Hope things are going well. May God bless you abundantly. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Christine Sanchez says, hello. There's Gary Older than Dirt. Hi, Gary. Let's see. Here's another one. M. Britannia. Glad you're with us. There's Steve out in Kentucky. Hey, Steve. Says, good morning, everybody. Hope all is well. Thank you. There's Katie. Katie's not working today because it's Sunday. Mike Finley says hi. And Katie says, can't see anybody. Yeah, I saw that. And Gary said the same thing. So, all right, guys, I will get back on them again. I thought, wow, it's fixed finally. And I still don't understand why it's not. And again, I have no idea about this permanent link thing because I didn't see a link that would be something you could go to all the time. So I got to find out how this is going to work. Anyway, all right, guys, thanks for being here. As always, hit that thumbs up button. That helps the channel out a lot. And if you guys, even you guys on X, you know, I don't think from X you can actually subscribe to the channel, but you could come over to YouTube, go to Travel and Cruise Industry News Podcast, or go to Chilliefalls, Chillie, Falls, Falls, and you can subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. That'll help us out a bunch. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this Sunday. I'll see everybody back here tomorrow morning for my regular show on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, coming to you from Bedford County, Virginia. As always, guys, thanks for being with me. Stay safe, stay healthy. Think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. Have a great Sunday, everybody. See you tomorrow.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry, so if you'd like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chilliescruises.